Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bravo Tea with a Stay-at-Home Mom. I'm Erica, and I'm ready to talk all things Bravo. Welcome back, everybody, and on this episode, we are going to be recapping the season premiere of Southern Charm, and then we will get to the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and New York, and we will get some Bravo tea. So we got a lot to jam-pack in this episode. So let's just dive right in. So sad that we're not seeing Olivia Flowers this season, but I like the new people that we are going to be getting. We already met one the other night. It's Molly. She is friends with Madison. I already love her. And then we're going to get somebody else. We don't know who yet. But they have an interesting relationship with the group. She used to like hook up with Shep and she used to date JT, if I'm not mistaken, but I know definitely with Shep. And then we have, who was the other person? Those two girls. Oh, Shep is going to have like a girlfriend later. I'm sorry. So that's going to be interesting, or at least someone he likes, but she seems to not be returning the favor much in his favor. But we open it up with Craig and Austin is going to be going up to Shep's family house. So this is where they stayed last time, where they had the big fight with Taylor and Olivia, and they were all wearing like the tinfoil hats with Craigie's conspiracy theories. So they are returning to the house. Austin and Craig are going to be carpooling together, and Austin said Craig always has to drive, and it's like a control thing. And then Craig said, I have to drive because usually my friends are always drunk. They're driving away though, and then the freaking trunk is open. And then he went down a one-way street. So it's like, Craigie, you're not convincing us that you're the better choice of drivers thus far, but at least you are driving sober. And then we get our appearance of JT with his cane. Now, I don't know about all of you guys, but I'm already waiting to see when JT quits because I can't stand him. I don't even really understand how he got on the show. I feel like he wasn't friends with any of them because none of them like him. And that's what I hate when they do. They just throw somebody in here and then it's like, nobody likes you and you're not friends. Like, how are you connected to everyone? I'm sorry. I don't know if he was friends with Rob or was it Rod or Rob? See, I already forget him. The one that was like obsessed with Olivia and she was not returning the favor. I guess they were friends or at least they became friends from this show, but we are not seeing Rod either anymore. Rob or Rod. I don't even remember his name. That's what I mean. Him and Olivia are no longer with us. But JT and Vanita go suit shopping. And I think this little crush love interest is weird. She definitely clearly does not have her boyfriend anymore. And JT, I thought was never going to get over Taylor. He professed his love to her last year and felt awkward and horrible for the guy that she was not like, yes, I love you too. But maybe Vanita is filling this void. So JT said you'd be blind to not see that there's chemistry, but they are vibing whether we understand it or not. So it's very interesting. But JT is walking around with this pimp cane because he had an ATV accident. And he said he was ATVing in like Costa Rica or wherever he was. And he went over like a ravine and then he fell and the ATV was like rolling down the hill and fell on his leg. And I'm like, oh my God. But then when they show the picture of his leg, it's like a bruise. It's not even that bad. And he's like, yeah, the doctor said I was going to be just fine and it wasn't even that bad. But he's like, it hurt really bad. It sounds like it would hurt really bad. The way he described the accident, I'm like, are we sure this is all that happened? Because that's, I don't know, it's just crazy. But then Austin is on the phone with his girlfriend. Yes, we all saw and heard that correctly on the show last night. Austin is in a committed relationship with a female publicly. And they have like weird nicknames. It's like, he's like, hey, Pooks. And then in his confessional, he's like, we have Pooks, Pookie Monster, Pookapotamus. I mean, this sounds like puke.
Shut up. Shut up.
It's like, I'm happy he's committing to somebody, but no, with the nicknames, that's going to be a no for me. But then we get to the family farm and Shep is starting to tell the farm manager about his little come to Jesus, Costa Rica, ayahuasca, eye-opening trip. So he said after the reunion, everyone kind of, confronted him about how he acted in Vegas at BravoCon, aka just being blacked out. So him not even remembering or knowing what happened in Vegas. And he said he has cut back the drinking, he's exercising, he's eating healthy, and he's just working on himself. And he immediately, when he gets there, he's like, I'm going to go for a run with little Craig. And that was so funny, him running around the family farm property. And the dog was just like kind of trailing right beside him. I mean, I was surprised the doggy was keeping up because he looks like he doesn't exercise much, but maybe little Craig is getting into shape with Shep. They're doing this together. He did not bring little Craig on the ayahuasca outing, but I think that stuff is like crazy. Like they did that wasn't it Orange County? And like Emily and Gina were like sweating and dying in that tent. That was last season. So not this past season, but the one before. That is like crazy. Maybe it wasn't ayahuasca, but they were like sweating in a tent, which is basically like that. But I think ayahuasca, you take like drugs. I don't know. I did watch something on it before, and it just seems so crazy. I think you just start hallucinating because you're sweating so much, honestly. But then Austin and Craig said it is going to be a little awkward being with Shep, but they just want to know, where he's at and see if he's changed. So then we get Madison getting in the store with the new friend. So her name's Molly, and Madison is looking snatched. So I know she wanted to have a baby, and obviously she does not have one yet. And current day, she is not pregnant, but her body's looking on fleek, chicy fleeky. But Molly, speaking of chicy fleeky, used to be a model. And she said that she was on America's Top Model, and then she showed like all her pretty much collection of everything she's done. But she said that she has a thyroid problem and it makes her weight fluctuate a lot. And over the past 2 years, she gained 45 pounds, but then lost weight also. But she's like, that's just a lot for a model to gain. And that is crazy. I feel so bad for her. And that's to be just hard for your self-esteem. But then obviously when you're in the modeling world, they're literally gonna cut you loose because they're gonna be like, oh, you can't even gain a pound, excuse me. You have to stay like a fit model. Those people are crazy that are fit models that do for the clothing. They cannot change their shape. They can't even change their boobs, their butt, anything. It's a lot of peer pressure, a lot of body issues, I feel like. But the interesting connection with Molly. So Madison was like, I used to do her hair and makeup when she was modeling. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. But also the other connection to the group is that Molly and Craig used to sext each other and send naughty videos to each other. I was like dead. I was like, oh my gosh, look at that. And she said they never hooked up in person. They met each other online. I'm like, that is so weird. Like, I hope they talk about it on the show because later Craig's like, yeah, we actually never like hooked up, in person. We just did that. And he's like, Paige thinks it's hilarious. She probably does. She's probably like making fun of Craig about it. She's probably like, oh my God, you're such a loser. Can you like show me what you were sending her? Like, I just love that like Paige is not jealous at all. So she finds it funny. And that's what's going to make Craig like just even more into Paige, like her not being jealous. Like instead of her, like she could be like, oh, I don't want you filming with her and around her. Well, then that would push Craig away from her. So I hope they do get into it since Paige doesn't mind and thinks it's funny like later in the season. But now Molly has jumped ships and she is into Whitney now. And I'm like, well, of course you are because he's rich from Miss Pat and he's like a producer for the show basically. But he's so much older than her. He is 56 years old. Can we like wrap our brain around that? He literally could have some of these people as children if he had a child very young, but like it could be possible. And I'm just like, kind of always forget how much older he is than everyone. But it makes sense because Miss Pat is older. But very interesting. It's just like, oh, I'm into Whitney now. But then Craig, Austin, and Shep all have their little talk at the house. And Shep is just expressing to them that he is shocked that they weren't there for him more. And Craig said he just had to cut him off because it was affecting his business. And Shep was like, whoa, that's like dramatic. And then they show a montage of Craig being like a crazy person over all the years on Southern Charm. I was watching with my husband and he was like, oh my God, Craig looks like a crackhead. I was like, I know, he was addicted to Adderall. Like, we forget, I feel like, because he's in such a good place right now and he's with Paige and we're like loving him so much that we forget what a hot mess express Craigie used to be. And Craig used to get on my nerves. Like, his voice was like nails on a chalkboard for me just because of his personality. Now I could tolerate the kind of like funky voice that Craig can sometimes have, like the up and down. It sounds like a puberty voice sometimes when he talks. And like I can handle it though because he's not being a drunk, annoying a-hole anymore or popping Adderall and being crazy. But I mean, Shep had a point. I understand Craig's point too. It's like, look, we're adults. I have a business. He had a booth at BravoCon for Sewing Down South. And he's like, I could not like associate with you that weekend because you're just like a mess. And I feel like Craig in his brain is like, if I associate with you, then I'm saying the behavior is okay. And then other people will be like, oh, well, if you think that's acceptable behavior, then like we don't want to do business with you or we don't want to go buy one of your pillows because you think that that's okay. But Austin said in his confessional that he doesn't really agree how Craig cuts people off. But then he's also saying, like, I understand both sides. And I get it. I mean, Shep definitely, like, when they showed the clip, he was like so blacked out. I mean, he didn't even know what he was doing. That's scary. But I think he was just wanting more from his friends, but maybe he should have said that. I don't know, but they kind of did cold turkey him after the reunion. They're like, we need a break. But I feel like all these people do that. Like they film with them all season. They're like, I need a breather from you. Even if they're not blacked out at BravoCon, they just need a breather from these people because I feel like they do so much together. And they're like, oh, we need a little cool off. We need to go do ayahuasca in Costa Rica by ourselves, honestly. But then Shep is saying to Austin that he had visions of him and his sister and the pain that Austin went through during all that because Austin had a sibling that passed away when they were little. They were on a family trip and it's literally so sad. She fell off like a cliff when they were doing like a exploration, I guess, of some sorts. And it's just so sad. It's definitely a sad, awful trauma that you can't get over. And they were kids, they were younger. So that's just definitely devastating. I love that Austin's parents have stayed together through all that, though, because a lot of times people can't stay together through that because it's just too depressing. Not that it's like their fault at all, but they just sometimes can't handle when their spouse like can't get out of that rut of losing a child. And I love that Olivia's parents are staying strong and they're together even after what happened to her brother and everything. But so then Shep said he had visions of Taylor and she was like a bird and she kept flying into a window or something like over and over again. And then Craig is listening to them from the other room and he's like, oh my God, they're such idiots. And P.S. Craig had a non-alcoholic beer that he had to announce. When they got there first to the farm, he was like, oh, I'm going to have an NA beer. Obviously, that means non-alcoholic. He said that he has like barely drank the whole past year. And I think later in the season, we are going to see Austin and Shep be like, all right, you're just being dramatic though. Like I saw in the trailer, Shep was like, Craig feels like if he's photographed with a beer, his business is going to like implode. And I think he's just realizing maybe alcohol isn't serving him anymore. And Paige doesn't seem like she drinks that much. Like on Summer House, she really does not drink that much. And that, I mean, that's a good influence. Like, and maybe they're mad that he's changing a little, but he's changing for the better. And it's called just maturing. I don't even know if it's necessarily changing. It's just like, all right, we're not all in our 20s and we're not in college anymore. We have like real life to deal with. So no one's going to keep acting like that. Shep is like the few percentage of when they're that age, they still act like they're in their 20s, which is not attractive to women either. I mean, seems like he's doing well thus far on the show. Like if he really has changed, he does seem like it's good, but the season has just begun. So we will pump the brakes on judging and seeing if Shep has really changed. But then everyone is getting ready to go to the Carolina Cup. So I forgot to say that. That's why Madison and Molly were shopping. They were getting dresses for this. And that's why JT and Benita were going suit shopping for that. So we're going to get dressed up, go to like fancy horse race, very, very Southern Belle thing, very Southern. So JT organized for everyone to get on the party bus. But see, Austin, Shep, and Craig are staying at Shep's family house because it's like 10 minutes from where the Carolina Cup is. Whereas everyone else is like hauling 2 hours away in that party bus from town. So we get Leva, we get Benita, we get Molly, Taylor, everyone on the bus. Taylor is telling us that she has a man named Gaston. He, ironically, is on Southern Hospitality, works for Leva. So that's interesting. I don't watch Southern Hospitality. I really need and want to. And I'm wondering if Taylor makes appearances on that show. And I'm wondering if we're going to get Gaston appearing on our screens. When they showed the pictures of them, I could have done without seeing the picture of Taylor and Gaston sticking their tongues in each other's throats and like sword fighting with their tongues. It was like I was vomiting in my mouth. I was like, I really did not need to see that picture. I just don't like Taylor after what she did to Olivia, and then thinking like Olivia's mean for not forgiving her during what she was going through her brother. And she lied to her. So it's just like, no, I don't care about you and Gaston. And I definitely don't want to see you swapping spit with your tongues on screen. Just gross. So then Madison arrives with her husband, and she was kind of like in charge of like setting up their little tent area. She had her party planner build these like pyramids of strawberries, and they look so good. I'm so impressed with the display. It was beautiful. Everyone is just looking all cute. Madison had like a very Julia Roberts, like polka dot dress with the hat, with the sunglasses, when he takes her to that horse race, and the guy from Seinfeld like creepily hits on her and's like, maybe we can hang out sometime, because he just found out that she was like a hooker. And it's like, no, bye. But that's what her outfit was giving me. I didn't really like Molly's dress. Like when they went shopping, and I understand they have to look like a certain way. This is like a prim and proper event, but I just didn't really like the dress. I mean, she's a very pretty girl, and it is a pretty dress. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it was like the way her hair was. Something was just not right for me with that dress. I feel like she should have worn something else. But she was like kind of excited, I feel like, to see Whitney. And when he arrives with Miss Pat, he brought a date. And I feel like Molly is so confused. So she kind of is like mumbling and saying to Vanita, yeah, like 1 minute he says he wants to have babies with me, and then the next minute he's bringing like a 22-year-old as his date. She was looking real pale. To be judgmental and mean, she was ugly. And Molly said she's just confused why she's here and looks very low energy, and maybe she needs some OJ, like a little sugar. Molly is going to be a treat for us this season, I can already tell. She seems like she's just going to tell it like it is, but not force anything, but be really funny too, which I feel like we all just need and always enjoy. So I love that. I hope it works out. If like Whitney's leading her on, that's just not right. I feel like they would be a cute couple, and especially if they're already hanging out. I mean, I don't know why he would bring this like pale stranger that no one knows. And I feel like Miss Pat would rather him be with someone like Molly than this like pale. She kind of looks like a little Wednesday Addams-esque. Like she just needed some sunlight. Like we needed to throw her with a little SPF out of this tent to just get some sunlight. I don't know. She probably didn't talk to anyone either. Like it did look like, I'm sorry, are we bothering you that you're here? Like, well, just weird. She looked kind of weird. I feel like Whitney deep down, that was a weird dude a little bit. Since Shep and Taylor go and have a talk, and it's just, Taylor definitely is still resentful and definitely mean. And he's like, I sent you a really nice text, but I never heard back from you. Like, I don't know if you have my number blocked, like, haha. And then she's like, in her confessional, no, I do have his number blocked. Like, that has to be like embarrassing for him. Like, and it is kind of weird. I get it. I think she wanted to get a little separation because she was so hurt. She has a boyfriend, but it's also like, you're gonna have to talk to Shep and film a show with him. Like, maybe you should unblock his phone number. I mean, I don't know. It's like a little weird. But then JT, I feel like, had to have a weird talk real quick with Taylor, like before they got in that party bus. So Taylor's just having weird talks with everyone because he's like, yeah, it's like, it's gonna sting a little, but like I can be friends and cheer her on from the sideline. JT is just a weird dude. So he arrives with the canes because it took him so long to get out of the party bus. On the way down, they stopped at a store and he bought more canes. And he's like, I'm gonna give a cane to everybody. It's like, no one freaking wants these like gas station canes. Nobody wants them. He gave the canes to everyone and then he was handing one to Austin and he's like, this is the olive branch. And Austin's like, are you going to hit me with it? Are you going to beat me with it? If I had to bet money, even though JT did kind of like headbutt Austin last season, Austin would definitely take him down in a fight for sure. But he gave him like olive branch cane and he's like, and I hear that you have a lady and I'm happy for you and I'm good talking to you. And then like walks away. And Craig is standing there observing the whole thing just with that smile, like, and he's just like, oh my God. And then in the confessional, Austin's like, JT, man, what a weirdo. He is a weird guy. And it's like, don't agree with lots of life choices you made last season, Austin, but I can 100% agree with you that JT is a weird, strange little man. What quote was that from? It was like, you're a sad, strange little man. Like, that's definitely JT. He's a sad, strange little man. So then it's kind of like whatever. He gave it to all the guys. But then JT made the dangerous mistake of giving Miss Pat a cane. And he's like, oh, here, Miss Pat.
Ha ha, laugh, funny.
No, we're not laughing. That's not funny. She's like, in her confessional, I thought that GIF was stupid. I mean, what's next? A wheelchair? And it's like, yeah, you literally do not give an older lady a cane because it's not a joke. It's a joke that you're giving it to Austin. It's not a joke you're giving it to an older lady that like probably could perhaps use a cane. So then they flash and they show 2 months later and they're going to show their trip that they take to like the Bahamas or wherever they go. And they're at dinner and JT is like, Craig, you ruined everything by telling people a lie that I did not say. And Craig's like, yeah, you did. After you handed Miss Pat that cane, you called her a bitch. And it's like, I bet he did. And he's just mad that Craig's blowing up his spot. But Craig's like, maybe this will get you fired because I don't even like you and none of us like you. And Craig's just trying to tell the truth. I mean, how are you going to call Miss Pat, who is a sweet lady, but she's also a producer of the show? How are you going to call her a bitch? That'd be like one of the people on Vanderpump Rules saying that about Lisa. And then you think you're going to stay on the show? I don't know. I feel like some people think he was fired, but I really do think he quit. And maybe he quit so they couldn't fire him. So he could like always have that, oh, well, I didn't get fired. I quit. I made my own decision. Because they're not going to fire him before the confessionals are done filming and the reunion. Because they want you at the reunion. Then they just won't give you a contract. So they're going to keep you so you could do all the promo and finish filming. I mean, he quit and did not finish filming his little promo. Or not promo, confessionals. But yeah, obviously he's not doing the promo with all of them too. So that's weird. It's like the season's coming out, but he's not even involved in it already. He's already exited the room. And I wonder how him and Vanita are current day since he walked out on the show. And she's like crying at that like group dinner. So I don't know. I think it's fascinating that they have a little fling or crush or whatever. I mean, I'm not surprised by JT, but I'm a little surprised by Vanita being into him. So I think this episode was a first good episode. I'm excited to see the rest of the season. I think it's going to be an uphill battle for JT with everybody because you can already tell nobody likes him but Vanita. The Taylor and Shep contention is going to get a little awkward. I'm wondering if it's going to be awkward at all between her and Austin. And I'm just here for a little gossipy Craig, loving Madison. Can't wait to have an appearance from Paige. And I think it's going to be a good season and I'm very excited. So let's take a little break and then we will recap Beverly Hills and New York. To all my listeners out there, it's not just the Bravo celebrities that want to look beautiful. We do too. Head on over to Studio One Salon for the most amazing extensions, cut, color, or even just a nice shampoo and blowout for when you go out with all your friends to talk about all the latest Bravo tea. Use my code BRAVOT with a stay-at-home mom to enjoy 10% off. And we're back, and we got none other than Kathy Hilton rolling around town in a Rolls-Royce convertible, eating a banana with an odd-shaped hat on, organizing a beach trip, showing up with pre-packed suitcases for all the ladies. Everyone's like, oh my God, Kathy could have just like texted us, but of course she's showing up in person, but I like it. She goes over to Kyle's house. Kyle's skin is flawless and amazing. Like I already said, when all these people stop drinking, their skin gets amazing. But I also know she's probably doing like lasers and everything and facials. Like that would be probably one of my favorite perks of having all this disposable money like these people do. Not only obviously having their palatial lifestyle, but having the budget to do whatever for the skin, because I love a good skin routine, love getting facials. I love taking care of my skin. I have like a sad, scary breakout I had on my face this past week, and it's just like one side of my face. So it's like right under my eyes on the side of like my, just like around my eye almost. That's weird to say. Like where my nose is, like that flat part on my face. So not the upper cheek, like the inner cheek-ish area, under eye area, like just a parade of scary breakouts and like these little tiny pimples. I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? Am I 15? Do I need Proactive? Definitely never. But that's what I get jealous when I watch these. I'm like, no, because if I was like Kim Kardashian or Kyle Richards, I'd be like calling my skin lady like today. She'd be coming to my house, taking care of these pimples, mixing up like a magic potion for me to put on them and disappear probably in like a day. But Kyle's saying she's hoping this beach trip is not going to be awkward with her and Dorit. And Kathy said in her confessional that all of this stuff probably wouldn't have bothered Kyle a couple years ago, but she is hypersensitive and she's going through a sensitive time. I like that Kathy is calling Kyle out a little bit though, because I think Kyle is being hypersensitive with this. I mean, if you think it's rude, Dorit made a joke on stage of BravoCon with like, oh, rate the Hilton sisters, and she wanted to take a drink to be like funny and cheeky, as she says. Get over it if that's it. You're the one on Amazon Live saying, oh, we're not friends. I just saw a clip on TikTok and it was like them celebrating Hanukkah together. So I understand that that was also being filmed for the show, but it's like, I feel like they wouldn't have done that unless they were actually friends. They were friends. I just think when Kyle was hurt, she wanted to like kind of hurt Dorit back, be like, oh, well, I don't really care about you because we're not even friends. But the craziest part was Maurizio comes over. And it is like so wild that Kyle is upset and she's the one that wanted all this. So he moved out like right before they kind of started filming for the season. And he signed a 6-month lease on an apartment. And she said that way it's not too permanent. And then when the 6 months is up, they will like reconvene and assess where they're at. And it's like, what does that mean? Are you going to get back together? Because he can't move back in the house unless you're going to get back together and not be separated and stay married and call him your husband. And like, what? Like, I'm just so lost. So then the producer says, do you hope that you and Maurizio get back together? And she said, I don't want to answer that right now, which that means yes. She just doesn't want to say yes and look like a loser, because this is what I think. Kyle was over it last season over him. He was still sad, calling her love bean, wanting to be with her. And then he's like, woke up, I feel like one day and like, you know what? I'm not throwing myself at you anymore. If you don't want me anymore, guess we're done. And he moves out And now Kyle's sitting alone because Morgan Wade broke up with her. Endor doesn't want to be her friend anymore. And she has no daughters really left at home except Portia. And she's bored and she's sad and she's lonely. I feel like the first couple episodes is just pinpointing on how lonely she is. But it's like, well, you wanted this. So if you can't get over whatever he did to you, then I don't really know what to tell you. Because for me also, if he did something really bad, I don't even think I would be moping around and saying, I miss you. I mean, I guess some people would. I mean, and 30 years is a long time, 25, whatever it was. But if it was really, really bad, I would go past the like, I'm sad and I'd be like, I'm so mad at you. I can't believe you could do that to me. Goodbye. Like, I'm just confused what's happening in Kyle's brain because she wanted this, but she's so upset by it. It's just so weird. And then she's saying that like she'll buy him sheets for like and towels for when Portia comes over there. And he's like, you need to come over and see it. I mean, they just are sitting there getting along so well. And like I said before, on my last episode, it would be so weird to be around each other and like you're not husband and wife. Like after that long, how do you act around that person? All I would know is how to act as your wife. And that's what she was saying. She's like, you know, all I've known is being a mother, being a wife. Now I'm like doing nothing. She's just doing her Amazon lives, walking around in her bathrobe with her amazing skin at her house. I mean, it is crazy. But then Dorit and Erica kind of talk about the trip and how she felt like Kyle has said all this mean stuff. And she, even if it meant to be a joke from Kyle, it was like hurtful. And I think what Dorit can't understand is like, okay, I may have been hurtful to you, but you were hurtful to me too. Why are you acting like you didn't say mean stuff to me? Because she's just really hung up on that Amazon Live because that is embarrassing and that is rude. But they all meet up at Kathy Hilton's house, and I love that she is serving them Dunkin' Donuts on like her fine china. This would be my 6-year-old Bella's dream. She'd be like, give me the Dunkin' Donuts on that fancy plate, Kathy Hilton. I feel like she would also love Kathy Hilton's house because I just feel like later in the episode, Kyle's like, if Kathy could be in a nursery rhyme forever, she would. And I feel like that's so inviting for like small children, like not in a creepy way, but just like, I bet her grandchildren love her nursery rhyme themed room that she probably has for them. So I feel like she's just an adult's dream to have like a party, but then a kid's dream also. But then Kyle comes in with like her freaking 5 Birkins. She is a giant Birkin and then Birkin stuffed in her Birkin. I mean, it's totaling of like $77,000 worth of Birkins. But then in walks Jennifer Tilly. And we didn't know, but she has that Simpsons money. So her ex-husband was the founder of the Simpsons cartoon. A part of her divorce was she gets a part of it. And she's like, but nobody knew the Simpsons would be going on for this long. And it's like, yeah, he probably didn't know that, or he's probably definitely kicking himself. And obviously she makes her own money. She is famous for the Chucky movies, and she is a voice in Family Guy. I forget the character's name, but she's the one that's married to the one that's like in the wheelchair with the dark hair. So, I mean, she's making money on her own, but just the fact that she gets that Simpsons money, that's how she's rolling in with all this super cool Louis Vuitton stuff. So she has this hat box that's like painted like Hollywood. And then she has this little Louis Vuitton boat purse thingy that looks like you could only fit like your car key in it. But as Erica says, this is art. And she's like, I would know because I'm looking at it. The little boat purse thing that you can't put anything in is like $33,000. Like, I feel like Kyle was like lunging at her at the door, like, oh, look at all your fun stuff. So then they all get in the Sprinter van, and it's like a 2-hour drive. They're going to San Diego, and they're playing this fun game of Never Have I Ever. And Garcelle is name dropping some of the celebs she had love affairs with. And she said Eddie Murphy, Will Smith, Sean Penn. I was like, oh my God. And then Erica goes in her confessional. Well, why didn't she marry one of them? And she ended up with the guy she ended up with. And she's like, I would have definitely married one of them. It's like, well, we know you would have. And I'm living for Erica this season. I feel like a weight is lifted off her shoulders. She's not like dark and ominous and angry anymore. And she's just like fun and loving life again. And I love her confessional. She's so funny. But then they get to this super cute hotel. And then Kathy has like a whole beach set up for them. They're going to play games on the beach and they have lunch on the beach. So Dorit is just telling Bose that PK moved into an apartment. And then it flashes back to, I guess, before this trip, Erica and Dorit were talking and she's like, I was telling the kids like I have to leave for this trip, and they're like hysterically crying, and she's like, you know, I can't be with them and my mom can't be with them, and of course their dad isn't here. And I'm like, now why wouldn't he? Because if they're pretending that they're together, I can't believe that they're pretending they're together and the kids like don't notice any difference. Jagger's like 10 now. Why wouldn't he go stay at the house while she's away? Are they just saying he works so much he can never even live at home with them anymore? I mean, they're not stupid. First of all, the 10-year-old's probably on the internet. Second of all, someone's probably telling him at school. And third of all, even if PK was not home for large amounts of times, he was at least home some. So if he's just moved out into an apartment, which is like so fast, if you think about it, like he is like moving top speed. I feel like with all this, like they announce their separation. He's like, oh, get an apartment. It took Maurizio like 6 or 7 months to like move out into an apartment. I think PK is definitely done. I could see Kyle and Maurizio, honestly, at this juncture, getting back together before PK and Dorit. And I feel bad because I think Dorit thought they were going to get back together, and she's just being like blindsided by him being single PK with his whole new wardrobe and new Bentley coupe. And I feel bad for her. I mean, and then they're having their conversation and everyone's like, oh, can we get in on this conversation? Dorit and Bose are just vibing so much that she like doesn't even want to share with the rest of the class, honestly. But Dorit falls twice in the sand. If this woman isn't having a hard enough time as it is, she's like, they start playing the games and she falls twice. And she says it's because the Chanel pants she has on are too long. So she's just falling all over the place. But then later, they go to dinner and Dorit and Kyle are having it out. They're having their battle. Dorit's like, it's time for you to shut up and listen. And I'm like, oh shit. Because they always make fun of Dorit that she never listens or she talks too much. And Kyle's like, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And she's like, yeah, well, you know what? I'm done listening. You can listen for once. Kyle, you shut up and listen. And they are just really sticking to each other's sides. Like, Kyle is claiming that Dorit said at BravoCon backstage, oh, she's turning the tears on for attention. So Kyle's saying that's why she was more upset. It wasn't really the Kathy, like, oh, you like Kathy better than me, making that joke on stage, Frank, the Richards sisters. She's like, it was more what you said off stage, backstage. The text message was pretty messed up that she showed it on TV. But we got to remember, if she's going to even talk about it, the producers are probably like, you need to let us show it also on TV. You guys are at work. You're on a TV show. We get you don't want to hurt each other's feelings sometimes, but we don't really care because we'll just fire you. So I feel like, yeah, it's pretty shitty. Dorit showed that text, but I mean, Dorit was like hanging on by a thread, I thought, last season. I didn't think we were going to see her back, honestly. And then that's why people are like, yeah, that's why she's getting separated so she could stay on the show. And I'm like, definitely not. I mean, that would be like really traumatic. And I never even thought that at all with Kyle and Maurizio. I definitely knew it was real when they were announcing their separation. But like I said, now after this, I don't know, like seeing her be all sad and her being like, oh, why did you buy furniture? Because instead of renting it or staging it, he bought it. And she's like, that just seems so permanent. It's like, what do you want to do though? Like, you wanted this, you brought it all up, you announced the separation. You obviously can't live together forever, because if you could live together forever, you can just stay married and be quiet about all this. But it's like, so you just wanted him to leave for 6 months and then he'll come back and it'll be like nothing ever happened? It's so crazy to me. I need to know what she wants, and I hate when people are indecisive, and I feel like Kyle, I'm just gonna say it, I feel like she thought the grass was gonna be greener on the other side. I think she was getting, mad with stuff with the agency. When her friend passed away, maybe she felt Maurizio wasn't there emotionally as much as she wanted him to be, and I think she was, like, a little taken by this Morgan Wade thing and got caught up in it, but I think she definitely realized the grass is not greener, and she, like, wants him back, but that's all I'm gonna say about that, and I'm gonna leave it at that, and let's recap The Real Housewives of New York a little bit, and then we'll get into a little tea that'll be related to New York. So Sai stepped on a little glass while she was cleaning out and organizing her closet. She calls it Sephora instead of Sephora, which is funny. And now she has to get surgery on it. Oh, and then her husband was trying to put like sandals on for her. They're comfy and like it was like had like dog poop on the bottom. I was like, ew. And then Jenna Lyons is having a clothing sale. And if I lived up there, my butt would have totally paid that $15 cover charge at the door. It's like paying to go into a frat party to get like a cup for like the moldy, nasty beer. And I get it. Like you need to at least charge people because then you'll have like a ton of just strangers for free. But I mean, even if you never bought anything, just to pay the $15 to go into Jenna Lyons' closet and house. Shopping all her accessories, the clothes. I mean, just like, oh, Beyonce wore this. The price tags weren't a lot. I saw Marc Jacobs purse was like $100. The price tag for something Beyonce wore was like $200. I'm like, what? Even if I didn't want to wear this stuff, I'd like buy it just to like have and say, yeah, Beyonce wore this. Do you want to give me like $800 for it? Little like bargaining. I don't know, like upcharge. It's so funny too because she's like, this is not going to help my case that people think I'm poor and need money. But then Erin goes to lunch with Raquel and she said she's just upset how the whole prank went down. I'm like, I'm pranked. I'm like worn out of hearing about the prank. This is not Jersey Shore where we have Pauly doing prank war champions. I'm getting a little bored of the show. It's definitely like wondering what they're going to do next season because I think it's flopping. I feel like we were excited for it last year and we gave them grace if like nothing dramatic happened last year. But now that it's a year later and nothing is still happening, it's like ugh, you have to make up fake stuff for the show to be interesting. But it's like, no, we don't want that. And we're getting too much Raquel. I like Raquel, but like I said, we don't even really know these ladies fully. And we're getting Raquel. Too much of her that I still need to know more about other people. We didn't even get Rebecca Minkoff this episode as I'm like thinking about her. Maybe we got her at the very, very beginning, but that was it. She didn't come because Raquel is having a party for her and Mel's engagement. And Rebecca Minkoff is not at it. So Raquel said her mom is not coming. That's sad. But they're all dressing kind of like opposite of what they usually would and like really over the top. It's like a fantasy, I feel like. But they had a name for it. It was not fantasy, but something like that. So Jenna comes in looking like really girly, wore a wig, lashes, like kind of slutty. And she looked good. Like I thought she looked so good. Um, and then Jessel was Madonna. And Uba kind of looks like a Russian hooker. I like it. And then Abe and Erin come in as each other. That was so funny. I don't know what Brynn was supposed to be, but I feel like everyone is like on the outs secretly with Brynn too, and it's like awkward with Brynn. And it's just like, I don't know. Then later in the episode, it was really sad, like, because we're like kind of bothered by Brynn, but then she's expressing to her brother that she was involved in sexual assault. It's very sad. And she said she feels like this is definitely affecting her dating life. And maybe that's why, because I think her and Gideon should get back together. I think it's like mind blowing to me. She wants to like have a kid with him, but like not just marry him. I mean, he wanted to be with her. You could tell he's still obsessed with her. Like, I think he would take her back in 1 second. So I don't know if there's just deep, dark stuff we don't know, but he seems fine to me for her to just get back with him. I don't know. I mean, if you don't love him, you don't love him, but I find it weird you want to have a baby with him, but not be with him. It's just crazy. Later, when Brynn was on Watch What Happens Live with Kathy Hilton, she was kind of talking about Jeff Lewis, and then she insinuated that he's a pig. Andy's face was just like, no. And then she said to Kathy Hilton in true Brynn form, because this is why we're all not liking her. She's twisting and manipulating stories, and it's like either over with and solved and moved on, and you want to rehash it, or you're embellishing and it's just not the real truth of the story. It's like a totally fabricated, crazy version of it. So she says to Kathy, because Kathy goes, oh, I like Jeff. And she went, oh, well, he talks about your sister. And then Kathy goes, oh, which one? She's like, Kyle. She's like, oh, what does he say? She's like, well, he has to send her a lot of orchids. So this happened like last year. And it's because he made some jokes about Morgan Wade and her. Who didn't? I mean, honestly. And he apologized. They are friends and they've been friends for a long time. And he sent her orchids. And everyone knows how Jeff is. He's just like a little catty, a little messy, but it's funny. Like, he's not being malicious by any means. And see, Brynn is trying to just stir stuff up. And he actually, I saw a clip, he addressed it on his podcast today and said that this is just typical Brynn behavior. And he said, I don't think she is an adult. He's like, she just acts like a child on the show and she embellishes everything. And we're seeing that on the show. And I'm just talking about what I'm seeing on the show. And then he had Kelly Ben-Simone as a guest. And she's like, yeah, I mean, some of these ladies are trying, but they're not even holding candles to what we did. And it's true. They're just not, it's not fitting right. I don't know why they need to get rid of the OGs on these shows. Sometimes we don't mind. I don't mind how old somebody is, as long as they're good TV. Don't wipe the slate clean with younger people thinking we need that. We don't necessarily need that. And I've been watching some of these people for so long. You think you could just take them off the screen and I'm not going to be sad or be like, oh, well, I wonder what's happening in their life. I don't care about this new person. And to be mean for a minute, what is Brynn's life? She has no partner, no children, don't really understand about her job. She's just by herself. Like, how is that anything that we're going to all like watch and get to know her and relate to her? I mean, she's just by herself. Like, she has to film with her brother because she doesn't have anyone. And I know we're not technically sticking to the housewife title, but it's like, you are not a housewife. You are not a house anything. You're by yourself. Like, you just bought a dog. Before that, you were all alone. Why did we pick you to be on TV? Why didn't we pick someone with like a family, with like a story? I don't know, something constantly happening in their home every day. Like, I feel like if we put cameras in Abe and Erin's house, we would constantly have stories every day because they have kids and kids are crazy. They'll just come up and kids say the darndest things. I mean, they just are wild and entertaining in themselves. Look at all the treasures we got from Melania and Joe Giudice. I just saw a video of them together in the Bahamas and they were making pizza because he's an old troll. And that's what she called him on TV, an old troll. And it's just funny. When you get kids, it's funny. That's why I like to see people with families, because it just gives them more of a quote unquote storyline. If we always want to stick to, oh, people need a storyline on these shows. Well, that is an easy storyline because it's just their life and it's not forced and it's just natural. But I'm still hanging in there with New York. I feel like I watch it, but it's not like I'm dying to watch it. I wait to watch it the next day, to be honest. I don't even have to watch it that night, and that's not a good thing. All these other shows, I'm like, oh, I have to watch it tonight. I can't miss it. I mean, I do always watch it like 20 minutes behind because I have to tuck my kids in, and I just do not like commercials. I'm spoiled. So I always have to watch things a little bit behind just so I can get through the commercials. But just to touch on a little Bravo tea. So we do have Lala's assistant coming out, not divulging too much information because she's signed an ironclad NDA. She said that she's gotten so many DMs of people asking why she didn't sign off on the podcast and give any information. And she said if she would have had the opportunity, she definitely would have. So that was very telling and very interesting because that doesn't shock me that she wasn't allowed to come on, but I am still pondering at what even happened because Lala was like obsessed with her and Jess always seemed to be obsessed with Lala. So I'm kind of shocked that they are no more because I really thought it was going to be like till the end of time with them. I mean, she just witnessed Lala giving birth and probably saw everything down below. So I'm surprised that she's not with her anymore. But also, Katie came out on her podcast saying that no love lost with Vanderpump being canceled because she was actually going to not even come back. Now, they can all say that now. They could say whatever they want because nobody's coming back. Do we really think you weren't going to come back? I'm a little shocked by that because, like, no offense, what are you really doing? You're doing the sandwich shop and you have the podcast, but like, I feel like main income was the show. And Katie was on since day one, episode 1. So I'm sure she was getting a hefty salary. Even if she wasn't always bringing the primary drama and everything, just I feel like seniority was getting her a good salary, and her and Schwartz together, that's how they bought that damn house. We got Brittany making an appearance on Watch What Happens Live. She popped in because she was at City Winery, New York. So I feel like that's why they had her in there. And when they were talking about Shep a little, so this was the Watch What Happens Live after Southern Charm the other night, and they were like, "Oh, we'd love to see you with Shep." And she's like, "No, he was at my wedding, remember?" And she's like, "Oh, sore subject." Oh, I love Brittany, and she was looking hot. And Fortune Feimster was on, and her wife's name is Jax. And Brittany's like, "Oh, yeah, I know that's your wife." But she's like, "Oh, that's a bad name for me." But she's like, "I'm sure she's nice." Could you imagine if Shep and Brittany like hooked up or something? I feel like we should like run with those gossip rumors because Andy was like, "Oh, I'm into this. Let's make it happen." Like he's catty and messy and I love it. I just really hope Brittany finds somebody before Jax, to be honest. Can't really think of anything else. It's just kind of more all of them talking about Vanderpump ending. She and Lala said they were, not really going to make amends with anybody, even if they came back on. It's like, well, now you can say that because you don't have to. But Ariana's friend Brad did go on a podcast and he said that Ariana was hurt that Lala didn't say like, this is what I said. And he said they've all come to like realize after the show was on for a while, like, listen, I get it. You feel like you had to say that maybe for like, show purposes, but at least give me the heads up, which I agree and I understand. That's when the reality part gets a little wonky because I feel like the majority basis, 80% of this is real, but I feel like 20% is a little put on. Like, would Lala say these things if she wasn't on TV? Maybe. But sometimes I think, no, you're just doing it to make a show, which great entertainment value. But that's why Ariana didn't feel she had to film with Tom Sandoval in the finale because she's like, well, this is reality TV and it's supposed to be real life. I wouldn't in real life do this, so I'm not going to for the show. Yeah, I feel like that's pretty much it. Oh, Kim and Kroy are still living in the same house. Can we even? The police were just there a couple weeks ago. She's like, I was just away on business and he like stole my iPad. It's like, can we separate them? I am so confused why they are still together in the same house. Like, please get these people away from each other. It is so ludicrous. I mean, the kids are there. So I feel like it could be like court ordered, like you're not allowed to reside in the house because it's like a danger and a threatening environment for these children. And the police were saying, you cannot keep calling us with this like domestic disputes that are like goofy and can be solved. It's like, get the hell out. I think the house is going to go into foreclosure. It's going to go to auction. So they have it for sale, but no one would probably buy it until it actually goes to public auction because you could get it a lot cheaper. But I just find it fascinating that they have no money and that they're still under the same roof. I mean, she does all those like swipe ups, like stupid stories. Like she basically said her daughter was pregnant. Well, I hope she got a lot of money for that story. And it's like, go rent an apartment or something for the time being. And it's just like amazing to me that people can still live in these houses and they're not being asked to leave, or like the locksmith comes and just locks it. It's just crazy. The sheriff's sale or whatever. Like it's just crazy. Oh my God. But I feel like that's it for now. I know we had to jam a lot in, a lot of recapping, but that's what I mean. I feel like New York, I'm not going to spend as much time recapping. I'm still going to be watching it. I'm still going to be recapping it unless something like super dramatic happens. I'll keep those recaps a little shorter and I will be probably talking more about Southern Charm and Beverly Hills. And then I will always kind of mix in my Bravo tea. I hope everyone has an amazing weekend and I will see you guys next week. As always, this was so fun, and you could find me on Instagram at Bravo T with the Stay at Home Mom, Spotify, and Apple. Till next time, see ya.